Darth Treya, Phase 3, Sith Triumvirate Raid. We're nearing the end, guys. Let's talk about Phase 3 and what to do. So with Phase 3, with the mechanics here, the first thing that you're going to notice is we have the special ability Stand Alone. This is going to be a global cooldown. Each character can only use it once. And what it's going to do is remove all bonds of weakness, which I'll show as we go into the videos. This will remove all bonds of weakness from Darth Treya. And then based on the character that uses the standalone ability, they gain bonus stats. Your tanks gain 100% tenacity, attackers get 100% bonus offense, and your supports or healers gain 100% maximum health. With Darth Treya, her first ability is Deceptive Strike. She deals damage to the target enemy, and 25% of that to all other enemies, so she has an AoE ability on her basic, which kind of sucks. I was hoping we wouldn't get an AoE on her basic. Isolate, this is the big special ability for her. You'll see a lock debuff over the character that gets isolated, and what happens is they deal special damage to the target enemy and isolates them until they are either defeated or Treya isolates someone else. This buff cannot be cleansed, it can't be evaded, can't be resisted. Once someone is isolated, the only ways you can get rid of it is by having them die or by having someone else get isolated. During this person's turn, they cannot affect anybody else on the other team. They are isolated, as the ability says, so anything they do, they won't give buffs to the rest of the team. Any turn meter they gain during their turn, they can't share with anybody else. They can heal, they can do health equalization and healing through that isolation, which is not something you see on a regular kit, but it's here for the raid because it would just be broken if a healer got isolated. Saber Storm, she basically makes her lightsabers go crazy. They deal physical damage to target enemy up to 3 times. If the target has any buffs, each hit also deals equal to 5% of the target's max health. Gaze into the Abyss, whenever an enemy gains Foresight, Treya also gains Foresight. Additionally, at the beginning of Treya's turn, she dispels Foresight from all enemies with a 50% chance to also stun any enemies dispelled this way for 1 turn. So enemies, or your characters that really rely on Foresight, are going to have a hard time fighting against Treya. Lord of Betrayal, whenever an enemy uses an ability, she gains 1 stack of Bonds of Weakness. This means assists, counters, taunts, anything that your team does, you're going to get a Bond of Weakness on Treya. She deals special damage to all enemies based on the stack count, meaning the higher the stack count is, the more damage Bonds of Weakness is going to do. You'll see this in the footage. In addition, she gains 10% bonus offense, defense, and tenacity whenever an ally is defeated. So once you start killing those lightsabers around her, she's going to gain a lot of bonus offense, defense, and tenacity. Patience has its limits. Again, immune to a tenacity down, just like Scion Annihilus. Whenever she takes damage, she gains 30 bonus speed and 50% bonus tenacity stacking, and these expire at the end of her turn. So if you hit her several times, you hit her 3 times, she gains 90 speed, she goes, that speed is reset. So she won't have speed at the beginning of her next turn. Fearsome Foe 2, basic boss ability, bonus action, 5% turn meter whenever someone's hit. They're immune to a lot of your debuffs. Your lightsabers. She has 3 of them that she will have out on the field. Controlling Strike, she deals physical damage to target enemy. If the unit has Foresight, dispels all buffs and inflicts ability block for 1 turn. Again, anti-Foresight abilities going on with Darth Treya. If this unit has Retribution, daze the target for 2 turns, otherwise the target is staggered for 2 turns. Dancing Saber, the lightsabers have 50% bonus crit damage and immunity to debuffs. In addition, at the end of Treya's turn, this unit loses all buffs and gains either Foresight, Retribution, or Advantage for 2 turns. So those are the mechanics. Let's go ahead and talk about some teams that can work for Phase 3. So teams that do work here is going to be sounding like a broken record, and kind of every time I say Jedi Rey works in a phase, I feel dirty. I just want to kind of say,
stop! You violated the law!
Jedi Rey works in Phase 3. It shouldn't, because Treya eats up Foresight. I don't know what's going on there. There seems to be some bugs here still. Apparently there's some issues going on with Foresight and everything else. So who knows, but right now your Foresight teams should not be working like they are in Phase 3. They should be doing much worse than they are right now, and Jedi Rey seems to be doing the best out of some of these teams out there. I've seen a team that did 13.6 million in Tier 6. Another team that actually does really well, surprisingly, is an Akbar-led team with Han Solo, Commander Luke Skywalker, Azeta Barris, Fulcrum Ahsoka Tano, did 10.9 million in Phase 3. So your teams like that with Akbar that can do assist, the protection up from Ahsoka from Ahsoka spreads out to the allies and helps combat that bonds of weakness damage. And of course, Zeta Barris, she constantly heals. She gains a lot of bonus health because she's a healer already, and that Zeta allows your teams to heal back whenever they suffer a critical hit. So a Zeta Barris is really good for your teams in Phase 3. Imperial Troopers, 3 million with them. Deathmark from Death Trooper really does great here. Again, anything that does max health damage like that with Exposes, or Subdue from Rex Baze with his AoE, anything like that, it's also going to do great here in Phase 3. So Imperial Troopers, not surprised to see them working well here with Death Trooper and his Deathmark. If you're looking for something fun and not expecting a lot of damage, throw Jawas in. People have been trying them. There's a video of a thermal detonator team in Phase 1 that does a lot of damage, and Jawas are really good for this. Jawa Scavenger can give thermal detonators to the enemy whenever they hit a Jawa ally. Basic for Jawa Engineer throws out thermal detonators. So if you can throw out some thermal detonators on the team and just kind of enjoy watching them explode for some nice damage, throw those out there. If you have First Order, you can also use them in Phase 3 with a Kylo Ren Unmasked Zeta lead, throwing him in there with that protection and regeneration whenever they gain buffs. There's also some really nice stuff going on with Kylo Ren Unmasked. Whenever he takes damage, he gives that advantage to allies. They regenerate health and protection. And basically, there's something going on where as long as Trey is not enraged, he's basically able to last to the end, where he's just able to keep taking hits from the lightsabers, and he just keeps coming back and just keeps surviving. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but First Order with a Kylo Ren Unmasked Zeta lead, definitely something you can use in Phase 3. I've seen teams do upwards of 3 million with them, especially if you throw in First Order Executioner. Once he goes free to play, he is going to be hands down one of the best First Order characters for this raid. So if you do not have First Order Executioner yet, wait for him to go free to play. Definitely get him, gear him up, get him ready to go, because with First Order, he is going to be a monster. Night Sisters as well in Phase 3. There's 3.1 million with this one team I've seen, and I actually want to try something with Night Sisters with Visa's Mar. I have not been able to try it out myself. We just cleared Tier 6, and we're going to try another one because we want to cement our strategy for Heroic before we actually go in and waste those tickets. But what I want to try with Visas and a Night Sister team is Visas with her Zeta, she can assist on her on whenever an ally attacks a Sith ally or a Sith enemy, and her basic attack heals her and the lowest Sith or lowest ally for 25% of her max health. Maybe it's 35%. And with a Zeta Asajj lead, anytime a Night Sister ally falls below 100% health, they gain 50% turn meter. And what's going to happen here is when they attack, Visas is going to use her basic, she's going to assist, she's going to heal herself and that Night Sister, or one of the Night Sisters, and that Night Sister is going to then take damage from Bonds of Weakness, which is going to drop them below 100% health, which then gives them 50% turn meter. So it's this nice little vicious cycle you can get in with your own team using a Zeta Asajj lead with Night Sisters and throwing Visas into the mix as well. So using a team like Zeta Asajj, Night Sister Acolyte, Old Daka can work as well. If you can get some couple of healers in there to help keep your Night Sisters healed up and really help them work there. Mother Talzin could work as well with her mass assist. She could help with getting all those attacks in. She can get 2 assists from Visas through that. So basically using Visas and an assist team is going to help with healing them up, because she's going to help keep them alive. She's going to help counter that damage from Bonds of Weakness and allow you to go a little bit longer in stacking those bonds before you have to cleanse it. Because at some point, this Bonds of Weakness is going to stack up so much, you're losing so much health that you're just not able to keep up. And thankfully, Bonds won't defeat you, but it will eventually drop you down to like 1% health. And at that point, you might as well be dead. So those are some teams that I think could work. I really want to see this Night Sister and Visas team in action. I'll have to see if I can get someone to try it out for me, or maybe I can try it for myself with the with getting the refund for Visas. So that's basically some teams that could work. Let's go ahead and go into some footage for this battle so you guys can see the mechanics of it and see exactly what we're dealing with in Phase 3. Now, this footage of Imperial Troopers in Phase 3 comes from Jolly over in the Republic. Asked him for some footage, he was able to give me some, so thank you, Jolly, for donating that footage. And with this, we're going to be using Imperial Troopers. We have a Zeta Veer's lead, with actually the Zeta on his unique, not his lead. And of course, Death Trooper, Snow Trooper, Colonel Stark, and Grand Admiral Thrawn. And you can see right away, he put on Deathmark from Death Trooper, called in the major assist with Veers, used the Fracture from Thrawn. Both those deal a lot of hits at once, which means a lot of Deathmark damage. And you can see we're getting a good 44,000, 45,000 at least with the death mark damage, which is great here. You have Colonel Stark, who apparently he does not have the Omega on Colonel Stark, where he's supposed to be giving out the crit damage on to the Empire allies. So Jolly, you're actually missing out on some damage here by not having that Omega on Colonel Stark's ability. And you can see that with this, we have now come out of one topple. We're about to defeat some lightsabers, and now you can see there's a blue icon over Darth Traya. That is Bonds of Weakness. You'll see that every time they take an action, that she is going to gain a stack of that Bonds of Weakness, and you'll see that it progressively deals more and more damage to the Empire allies. You can see we're now up to 1300, so each stack seems to add about another 200 damage to Bonds of Weakness. And in a moment, once we have Deathmark up, and the nice thing here with Imperial Troopers is that they gain bonus turn meter, speed, offense up, protection regeneration, all of that fun stuff whenever they kill someone. So with that, we're going to be able to apply Deathmark pretty easily in each topple, and you know, we're only up to 8 stacks of Bonds of Weakness, and we're already 2 topples into the fight. He hasn't had to use Standalone yet, and ideally, I recommend you use Standalone when there's about 30 to 40 stacks of Standalone up, but you'll see here he just used it, and you're probably wondering what's about to happen. Well, watch this here in a moment, and he just got ability blocked and dazed. This is gonna be ruthless for him at least. But ideally, if he does not get dazed or ability blocked, he could have used the AoE from Snowtrooper to knock out all the lightsabers in one blow, and then he could have then just gone to another straight topple with Darth Traya and just wipe things out. Now, you'll see that we will start using the Grand Admiral's command with Grand Admiral Thrawn to regenerate protection on some of these Imperial Troopers as they get a little low, and we'll see here in a moment that you're going to, start losing the protection because Bonds of Weakness stacks up enough damage, and that's why you use the Standalone with, to knock out the Bonds of Weakness and help recover help prevent so much damage coming onto your team. Ideally, you want to use at least 2 healers on your team. That way, in case someone gets isolated, you're able to at least keep someone healing there. And you're seeing with the mass call to assist and the defeating and the bonus turn meter, Snowtrooper is not getting any of that, and that is because of the isolated debuff. With that, anything he does during his turn will not affect anyone else on the opposing team. He will be able to deal or give out the bonus turn meter if he is able to defeat enemies, but on his own, he is not going to be able to be assisting with the call to assist with General Veers. He is not able to gain bonus turn meter whenever someone else defeats another enemy, I believe, and any buffs that go to the team through General Veers and his Zeta Unique, Snowtrooper will not be able to gain them, and that's just part of the isolation debuff. It's really nasty, it's a hard thing to counter, and ideally, and really, isolated debuff is what's going to separate the kids from the adults with your raid. Being able to adapt to someone getting isolated, being able to figure out how to counter it on your own, that is something you're going to have to figure out to really making sure that you can do a lot of damage. And you can see here that with the isolated debuff on Death Trooper, he's not able to get the fast turns, he's not able to apply that death mark. So this is some bad RNG for Jolly, with getting that isolated debuff on Death Trooper, not able to apply that death mark as quickly as he would like, and starts cutting down on his damage. He did another run with Admiral Akbar with a Hermit Yoda lead in there, and that's where things started to get nasty for him, and you can see now we've started to lose people. So ideally, isolated debuff is going to make your team suffer in really bad ways. You're going to hurt because you're not able to knock out some of those characters. So we got the fracture there, and he's able to counter on some of these teams and some of these sabers and do some pretty nice damage there, but unfortunately he's going to lose the lightsaber here in a moment if he's going to lose Grand Admiral Thrawn here in a moment if he is not careful. So there we go, we're into another topple, and that's what ideally you want to do. You want to use Standalone at times of desperation and when you need to get into that next topple, because those topples are not just for bonus damage, but also a great way to recover health and protection without taking damage from Bonds of Weakness or fear retribution from Darth Traya. So use Standalone not just to help deal more damage, but also help your team recover. So those are some tips for Phase 3. This has been pretty much it for a guide for Phase 3. We've shown compositions, we've shown teams, I've gone over the raid details. If you have any questions, feel free to ask down below. I'll do what I can to answer them. And to all my minions out there, thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.